also keep saying this, that the market is not made for one tool, right? However good your tool is. So in my case, I work a lot with my 10 bar cot, but the market was not made for my 10 bar cot to decode everything of it. So I have to surround myself with an IB and an IS signal. I have to surround myself with a market and a limit order, and I have to surround myself with a cot at the end of the 3 minutes and the cot at the end of the 30 minutes, because the market speaks in different ways, and I have to find it good and find it within me to collect all that information which is flowing from the market, right? So don't just let one tool be the the speaker for everything which is going on, which is happening in the market. The market is different every single day and will speak to you differently every single day. And this is an order flow chart off screen, and this is an order flow of traded volumes, right? Now there are a few things we look at when we're looking at this chart, and the first thing if you are having this chart open is you're focused on this 10 bar cot, which is around that 40,000 number. Now for those who saw this order flow chart yesterday, and I posted it on X as well, on Twitter as well, this is consistent. This is consistent with the number of yesterday, which was in that region of about -30, -40,000. Now a few things go for us when we are speaking about a cot. The cot, because it is a number generated off the demand and supply of the market, and I'll repeat that again, it's a number generated off the demand side traded volumes and the supply side traded volumes of the market. And you have to pay attention to this number when it is big. So I will not really pay attention to this number when it is about -5,000 or -6,000 or -7,000 here and there. There is always demand and supply in the market, and the market has to show us demand and supply. And because the market is showing you live demand and supply, this number will keep ticking. There will always be a number on screen, and that number will always speak to you. What we have to note over here is what really happens when this market has got some extra imbalance via the demand and via the supply. So in that case, we look at that number as being above -20,000 or below +20,000, and that tells you that there is more demand or more supply side imbalance hitting the tape. And we had that number of -30,000 at the close yesterday. Through the close of yesterday, the number, the selling was evident, and that would always tell you that this market is supply side imbalance, and hence we got a gap down. Data is what is driving everything in the markets today. And I have been a trader who's always believed that we have to exploit the power in data. And if you keep ignoring data, if you keep ignoring information, and if you're relying on old, outdated information, then you're putting yourself up for a life of struggle in the markets. The markets tend to keep changing all the times. The cricket which was played by the likes of Kapil Dev and Ravi Shastri and Sunil Gavaskar back in the 80s is very, very different from the cricket which is played today. The game has changed. Now why am I saying that? Because a lot of traders when they come to the markets, they are focused on a lot of trading strategies which were once very useful, but back in about 90s and 2000s and 2010. The last decade, the kind of change which has happened in the market has been astronomical, big, huge impact. It has propelled NSE to be the #1 derivatives exchange in the world in terms of contracts traded. And it's not just retail traders, it's a lot of institutions from overseas who have come in and who are trading in these markets today, right? So you can ignore all that is happening around you, or you can make life better for yourself. And the way you can make life better for yourself is to arm yourself with information, and not just arm yourself with information, learn how to strategize with that information, learn how to monetize with that information.
Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. Good evening, all. Welcome to this Monday 5 p.m. session, and let's start with what we generally do. We'll have a review of what we did in spot last week, and then we will come on to the futures chart of today and way forward. Then we also have a quick look at how the candlestick charts which we have at VMR give us such important signals, and when do we need to use them, in what context. So let's start with the weekly report. These reports are published on the website under the forum section. We also have a daily report covering the futures, which will be a regular feature now on. So you can have the future levels marked up on this report, whereas the spot levels would be updated in this weekly spot report. So coming to Nifty, what we did in Nifty last week was we also had a session last Monday, and we saw how Nifty opened with a move away from this weekly value on the downside. But what we did was we could not sustain below the monthly value area low, and we left a small buying tail. But after which the attempt to probe higher could only stall this weekly POC of 24761. We were not able to get above that. So this was a normal profile which we made on Monday with an attempt with a start to probe lower, but it failed to sustain, and that is the reason it went back into previous week's value. But then the POC was stalling that move. On Tuesday, we opened higher, well above the POC, but we did not find any demand. So what we did was we left an AP rate selling tail and we formed an outside bar. It was a long liquidation B-shaped profile where we made new lows for the week at 24502. This 24502, you can see the lows was testing this weekly buying tail from couple of weeks back. 24509, I think, was that weekly buying tail till 24462. So that buying tail was held. How do we know that? Because we left another very small mini buying tail on Tuesday. So after a B-shape profile, we need to move away from that value of B-shape and stay below the POC of the B-shape profile to be bearish. But that did not happen. We remained above this POC, and then we formed completely inside value on Wednesday. So we had a nice 2-day balance with a prominent POC at 24593. So this 24593 became our reference for the weekly settlement last Thursday. And what we saw at the open on the weekly settlement day was a initiative buying tail to the upside. We moved away from this 2-day value. We went on to make new highs for the week. We negated the selling tail. But what this initiative buying at the open saw was some responsive selling, which came right at the value area high of this weekly value. We completed the 80% rule in this weekly value. This was a nice balance. So the 80% rule was definitely on. Previously, the 80% rule on Monday was not completed because we stalled right at that POC. And on Tuesday, we opened with a rejection of this POC. So here on Thursday, we got into this weekly value and we completed the 80% rule. But above this value area high, we did not get any demand and we left a small responsive selling tail. So initiative buying met with responsive selling. That is the reason we closed right in the middle of the profile. We have this halfback, which was also coinciding with the monthly POC of 24757, which is where we made the settlement. In fact, the monthly close was right there. The settlement to the week prior to this week, last week, was also there. So even this Thursday, we saw the settlement there. And Friday was the event day, the RBI day. So what we did, we made an open auction in range. We tested both ends of this value in the initial balance. So we talk about Seaside and how Seaside is known to give a Dhoka or con period. But on even days, especially on RBI days, Seaside, you need to treat it completely differently because that is the time where the RBI policy gets over and 10:15 is the time for the volumes to come in. So RBI day or any event which is coming in the time, that TPO becomes important. That is the reason post the RBI announcement which was completed by 10:15, we saw this extension handle coming in. And from here, we made a big move to the upside. We went on to make a high of 25029, I think. but we could not extend after the F period. And what we did was we formed this a kind of an elongated trend up profile, but this was not a regular trend day. It was a very irregular trend day because of the range. Yes, you can call it a trend day, but we saw the POC shifting to the top, and it was also more like a P-shaped profile, which was suggesting short covering. So what we did on the weekly time frame, we made new lows on Tuesday that got rejected, and we went on to get above the highs. So we had a weekly FA at the lows of 24502, and the weekly profile was a neutral extreme to the upside. The weekly profile was a neutral extreme one to the upside, which was forming mostly lower value. The value was lower for most part of the week, but saw an initiative move away, confirming a weekly FA at 24502 and left important buy side handles. So this 24739 and 24899 are the important buy side references which we carry forward for Nifty Spot. And we were looking all set to tag the 180R objective of 25125 in the coming week. So this was our first objective, and saying about this, we are looking to continue higher to this 25359 in the current week. So this is the weekly profile. It is a neutral extreme to the upside. We have a FA at top, at bottom, and this 25125 was the 180R move. So we have these charts also, the link to the charts also right here. So we can just open this up and we'll do a review of what has happened today in spot. And these hypos were marked up for today. So we opened with a gap up. We took off the swing high of 25079, and that became our support. This was showing us change of polarity. We went on to scale above this 25125, but what we did was we made a high of 25160. In fact, today's open high start was at 25160, and if I open up the weekly chart, I'll show you what significance that 25160 has. So we don't have any random levels when we look to trade at the VMR or using this VTrender charts, because MarketProfile and order flow gives us very precise levels which we can make use to trade. So I'll just take you back to October 2024, and we'll see where the 25160 was last seen in Nifty Spot. So this is the weekly profile chart of 14th to 18th October. And you can see this A period, initiative selling tail on a weekly profile. This was where 25160 the reference was. So what we did at the open today was we hit this selling tail, but we could not get above this. So it was an open high start, and that is the reason we got settled into an open auction out of range, and we found a very narrow range profile. And you can see the weekly VPOC of 25064, which we have been talking about for the last 2 weeks, where we tagged couple of weeks back, and then we left a failed auction not once but twice. So that was signaling that this was a supply zone. This was a previous supply zone from October, and since then we were trying to get the sellers uh, gain control at this level. But last week, because of that RBI policy day, this level was taken out, and today we gapped higher. Sorry, this level was not taken out. A fresh imbalance had started, and today we took off this VPOC and we took off the swing high of 25079, but we stalled right at the selling tail. So I'll just come to today's profile, and I'll just reduce the TPO a bit so that we can. So today open was a higher one, so we are well above previous week's value, and this is that swing high which I was talking about, which we have taken out. Sorry, this is the swing high 25079, and this is the previous highs of the year which we made in May, which was at 25116. So what we have done, we today is not only made got above this, but made new highs for the year 2025. Today's high is new highs for 2025. 25116 was the previous high, and today we hit 25160. But we have not made a range extension, and we have left a normal day, a nice Gaussian curve. So today's what we have done today is a nice balance, and this is always the sequence which happens in market profile. A balance is followed by an imbalance and vice versa. So when we had that imbalance move which started on Thursday with that initiative buying and continued on Friday with that extension handle in the C period, it was time, and also continued today morning with a gap up. So it always had to get back into a balance mode. So that is what has happened, and today we have formed this narrow range balance. So today's value would be the reference for tomorrow and the week forward for this week's settlement, for what we can do further. If we get an initiative move to the downside away from this value area low, then we're looking for a re-entry into this weekly profile and test those buying handles which we are talking about, this 24899 and 24739, which was the weekly IBH of last week, and will be an important reference because that is where we also have the monthly POC of May. So again, because we had a very narrow range balance today, we can expect a imbalance again for tomorrow. So if we don't get an imbalance tomorrow and the auction continues to remain in today's value, forming a outside bar or a larger range, then we it could be setting up nicely for the weekly settlement, which is due on Thursday. So that is how you need to take, that is how you need to figure out when we are in a balance and when we are not in an imbalance. And when you have an open type like today, open auction out of range, it is a very good uh, time to understand that the imbalance is over. We are on for a balance. So balance is the time where you would look for short straddles or short strangle plays, and that was the only trade which was seen from the open at the VMR today. So we also in fact identified in Bank Nifty also 57,000 was the chosen strike, and we saw volumes adding up in both call and the put side, and they were only going for the premium eating process because of the open type and because of the fact that the imbalance is now given way to a balance. So as long as this balance is forming, that straddle or short triangle will uh, keep losing money, will keep moving in the favor of the short sellers. So that is how you need to identify which phase of market profile is in play, and accordingly look to take those kind of trades. When you're in an imbalance, you would want to short the weaker side. For example, if you're trending up, you would want to short the puts and go along the calls. So that is what it is in Nifty spot. So a move away to the downside from today's balance will give us an entry back into this weekly profile of last week, and we have some important references which have been posted and which will also be updated in this report, the weekly report. So tomorrow, for today evening, you will have these hypos for the 10th of June, and you can use them as the references for spot along with this chart also with the hypos. So you can see how on Friday we have left some good buy side extension handles: 24817, 24849, 24899, and 24946. So these would be the downside references which we can look for in case we get a initiative move to the downside tomorrow at the open. So coming to the Bank Nifty spot, what we did last week. So Bank Nifty was not at all bearish last week. Even on Monday, even in the first part of the week, Nifty made an attempt on Monday to move away from the weekly value. We were below the previous week's value, but Bank Nifty it was completely opposite. We left a initiative buying tail on Monday right at the weekly POC, and we have discussed many times how in spot we give lot of importance to the weekly POC, and we are bullish above the weekly POC and bearish below the weekly POC. So you can see how on the first 3 days the weekly POC got tested, but all 3 days it got rejected. It never sustained below this POC. So what we did on Tuesday was the higher open was similar to what we saw on 23rd of April, where we made the new all-time high of 56098. There was no demand coming in at the higher levels, and that is the reason we left a initiative selling tail, and it marked the end of the upside. And from there, we started a balance which continued all through May. we have discussed how on the monthly profile of May, Bank Nifty had formed a nice balance, a Gaussian curve, which was completely inside the profile of April. And in April, we made that big move higher. So this balance to imbalance happens on all time frames. So we follow daily. It even happens on the shorter time frame, the intraday time frame, 30 minutes, and then we follow the daily, weekly, and the monthly. So we saw monthly, and we also discussed how on the monthly uh, profile, May had given a nice Gaussian curve. So we were expecting a move away in June, and we have already got that move in Bank Nifty. So from the close of 55750 at the end of May, we have gone on to tag new all-time highs of 57,049 today. So you can see how you can anticipate that move, and how do you get into the move, the trend, when you are looking, when you are getting a move away from the balance. Because you can see how last week was a nice Gaussian curve, and uh, the starting of the June was not a one which was telling you that an imbalance has started. Why? Because we did get this initiative buying tail, but this was complete again negated by this initiative selling tail on third. But then what kept us on was this event day of Friday. So we were very sure that once the event was out of the way, Bank Nifty will definitely give us a move. In fact, even on Friday, when we posted the weekly high post, we had posted about 1,000 point, expecting 1,000 point move in Bank Nifty spot once the RBI was done. And that 1,000 point came in the seaside itself. You can see how the first 4 days was giving you overlapping value. We were above the weekly POC, so there was no question of being bearish. But yes, we had this selling tail, so there was slight doubt on the upside also that sellers are trying to hold this level. So what we did on the RBI policy day after the initial balance was formed is the initial balance swiped through this 4-day value, both sides. It tested the value area zone, both the value area low and the high, and C side, it made a typical C side lower. In futures we did not get this, but in spot we made new lows, immediately got rejected, and we left an extension handle at this 56,002. So this confirmed a failed auction at the lows. 55348 was that reference, I think, in spot. 55534, sorry, 55534 was the reference, and that failed auction not only gave a trending move, but it also completed the 280 target, which was at 56590. And you can see how we formed the POC right around that level of 56590, the 280 mark. So the RBI policy was done. We also started, we also got an imbalance. So this imbalance was due. We already were anticipating that, we were looking for, but we did not get any confirmation in the first 4 days. We started bullish, but we could not extend much. Then we got this selling tail. So this became our reference. So, but once we got this FA confirmed and this extension handle, which took out this, it was very clear that the Bank Nifty is headed higher. And on the weekly profile, what we did was we formed a normal variation one, which was actually giving overlapping to higher value, but it closed in a spike. And what was the spike zone? The spike was from 56,161 to 56,695. So this will be the zone we'll watch. Above this 56,695, we are completely bullish for more upside. And if we get into this spike zone, we look for some cues from the buyer that they are coming back. But if we break below this 56161, that will negate the bullishness, and that will set up a probe of the 80% rule in this previous week's nice balanced value area zone. So this was our hypos for today. And what we did in Bank Nifty was we opened with the open high start right at this reference. So I'll just open up today's chart. And Bank Nifty is in uncharted territory. So you don't have any older references. So that is the reason we have to make do with uh, the objectives from the current levels. So that is the reason we had this monthly IB, which was marked 2IB, monthly 2IB of 56922 as our first uh, as our second objective, we had this 56749, which was the 180 hour objective from that extension handle of 56161. And then we had a pullback low at 56455. So this was our higher objective. So what we did today was we opened, we with an open high at 57049, and we remained in the initial balance range all day. And what we have done is, I'll just form a nice Gaussian curve. So similar to what we spoke about in Nifty spot, we will have to see if we are getting a move away from this value in the coming sessions. So if we get an initiative move to the downside from this 56860, then we are looking for a test of this weekly profile of last week. We can test this HVN, which was the POC of Friday, and then we can get into this spike zone which we have discussed in the report. On the upside, because this is uncharted territory, you only can continue to go higher and take levels as they come on a daily basis. So if we get a range extension, we have the weekly 2IB, 3IB levels and the daily 2IB levels, which we will mark up. So that is what how we are placed. But the imbalance in Bank Nifty has started from this zone. So this 56161 will remain important for the not just for the rest of this week, but also for the rest of the month of June. So if we remain above this, we can continue to probe higher in June. But if for any reason we come back, then it is a signal that the upside is done and we have got into the phase 2 of the IPM, which is forming a balance. So we will have to see on a daily basis how long we are making higher value. So today we have definitely formed higher value compared to Friday. So that is telling you the imbalance which has started on Friday. In fact, in Nifty it started on Thursday, has continued today. So tomorrow we will have to continue forming higher value or at least overlapping value to remain bullish about both. So and that is how we will have to take up. And if we form overlapping value, then it is telling us that the higher time frame is getting into a balance mode. And it is very important for us to know as traders what the market is doing. If it is in a balance mode, we will trade the range and we look at straddle and strangle as short options, or we will look for taking responsive buying and selling trades according to the range which has been earmarked as the balance range. So that is as far as the spot is concerned. We will have the hypos put up for the Bank Nifty spot also in this report itself for the 10th. So you will be able to make use of them for tomorrow along with this chart of the hypos. So let's now move on to the futures. We also have this daily report on futures. So we have the chart put up, we have the open type, initial balance, and the day type. So we also have the link to the market profile chart which you can open from here. And we have the important daily zones which are marked. The weekly zones has a link to the weekly profile of Nifty futures. And why this is important, because in Nifty futures we are following the Friday to Thursday settlement week. So it is different from the calendar week which we follow in spot and also in Bank Nifty, because Bank Nifty is now only having the monthly settlement. So that also follows the week calendar week for the weekly profile. But in Nifty futures, it is different. So we have the 30th May to 5th June, wherein we have formed a neutral profile, 313 profile. We had formed on 5th zone. So it was expected that the new week can give an imbalance. So that is what has happened. If I open up the weekly chart, you can see how the week ended on 5th. So value, we have not tagged this POC. This has become a VPOC now. So this is why we look at this concept of balance to imbalance and imbalance to balance. So when you have seen the weekly is a balance, you know that you can expect a move away from this balance. So that is what happened on Friday, which was start of a fresh week in for the Nifty futures weekly settlement. And how do we know that? Because we opened above the POC and we got this extension handle above this weekly value. So that is the reason we have gone on to test these highs, but we still have a swing high of 25255 to which has to be taken out. to remain more bullish. So this is what you can do, and follow the balance to imbalance on all time frames, and accordingly look to take some good trade setups. So let's now open up the Nifty futures chart and see what we have done today along with the order flow also. So I'll put up the 30-minute order flow so that we can quickly do a wrap up of what we have done today in Nifty futures. So you can see what we did was we have this pink line which is marked on that profile chart, and this is the failed auction from 19th of May. We can recollect how this failed auction was tagged in the spot as well as in the futures. May futures, this failed auction did get revisited, but in June futures, this was not yet revisited. 25255 was not revisited in the pullback in the highs which we made on 22nd. You can see this is that failed auction, 19th of May, a typical seaside which got rejected, and we got an extension handle and we closed lower, giving a neutral extreme profile to the downside, and this failed auction gave us the 280 targets also. So that was our reference on the upside, and that was also marked in this hypo business areas which we have for futures. You can see how we had this 25225 marked as the failed auction from 19th of May. So we were bullish about this 25125, and 25175 was our first reference, and we would have been bearish today only below this 25077. And at all points of all levels, we would have seen what the order flow is showing us. So what happened today? We gapped up, but you can see the 30-minute order flow. You have got zeros on the buy side. Although in the trading terminal, we have got a uh, opening high of 2 25235, which means we did test that failed auction briefly. But here in the order flow, you can see we have no volumes above this 25210, and you have zeros on the buy side. This is more important. So this was very clearly telling us that there is no demand in the gap up, and that is the reason we settled down into an open auction out of range. Yes, we did have some good buying which came in after the initial balance on Friday, which got this move up, and those buyers are still holding because we are above the previous day high. But today at the higher open, we did not get any demand. In the probe lower, we saw the similar pattern happening on the sell side at the lows. So this got zero on the sell side. So this was the 30-minute range which marked the entire range of the day. We remained in this range all day, and in the probe higher, in the C and the D period, you can see how we got some sellers. Here you can see how again we have got zeros on the buy side. Here we did get some buy side volumes, but this could be more of the shorts who were forced to cover, because the signal wise we got a RS signal in order flow. We did not get a IB signal, which we would want if some initiative LLT buyers are coming in. And then the volumes were very low. So when the volumes are so low, we are clocking only 2000 contracts on the 30-minute chart, which we use as 3-minute reference for IB and IS signals. You're getting that many contracts on 30 minutes. So that is very, very clearly telling you that this is an auction which is going to be settling down into a balance. So how do you mark the range of the balance? Your lower range would be this 25150, and upper range would be the failed auction of 25225. So we continue to form here. We did get a IS30, but again in the break of this IS30, you see you've got zero on the sell side, and the volumes 2400 contracts. When you're getting an IS signal on 30 minutes, it is just telling you it is just printed because of the sake of getting printed. You would want these kind of volumes on a 3-minute chart in the IS bar. For 30 minutes, you would want at least at least the volumes to be more than 12 15,000 contracts. And then when it gets triggered, you can you will be looking forward to take that trade for 1:1, 1:2 setups. So what we did today in Nifty was we continue to remain in a range. And again, I'll give you one more example of how we cannot take any trade just on the basis of an LLT. We got this big 2300 red all of a sudden in the 145 TPO. So, but that hardly moved the market. The market still remained in the narrow range it had already marked. And you can see why not just the presence of an LLT is not a signal. That is the reason we uh, give the importance to the four to five parameters which we have identified, and we want most of them to be in sync when we want to look when we look to take a trade. If this LLT would have also continued to give a IS30, and then we would have got a continuation by a range extension lower, then that would have given us the confidence to go short. But the LLT just stayed and the price kept rotating around the LLT into the close. And we also continued to get some big LLTs also. So that is telling us that this could just be a ploy by the big players to use the option inventory to make money out of this balance. So till we have this balance, you can know the option premiums will keep getting decayed. So that is what they are doing. They must have shorted options. They must have also shorted in this futures just to uh, make it safer, their positions. But whatever it is, we don't know what the big guys are doing. But what we need to do is follow the signal, follow the process. We need to follow the LLT with an initiative buying or a selling signal. Only that will tell us, that will give us that range which we are looking for to take a good trade setup. So that what we have done in Nifty futures is form a normal day, same thing, same rules. We are in a balance, so we will have to get a move away from this balance. 25225 would be our reference on the upside. For this week, we will need to get some buy side volumes. We need to start with the IB3 3-minute IB signal, and then we need to sustain above that, and we can look for more upside. On the downside, we do have a small buying tail today, which is at this 25161. So that will be our reference on the downside. If we break below this, get an entry back into this Friday's profile, then we will look for IS signals in the order flow for a touch of this POC of 25077 and this all important trend day VWAP of 24980. And you can see how we have the halfback of Friday at 24944. And I would want to recall how this is a very important reference for the June series, because this is where we have the rollover point. So we have been mentioning why the rollover point and the monthly references which we tag hold out for the entire month. We had discussed about 24673 being one important reference because that was the neutral extreme VWAP of May. And you can see how the low on Friday in spot was exactly at that same level. 24750 was the POC, and the low in Nifty futures on Friday was exactly at the same level. So that is the reason we have these monthly references marked, and we have them put up on the report also. You can see the VWAP 24673 and the spot POC is at 24575. And in the start of the week, we were below this, we broke below this. So that is the reason we were looking for more downside. But once that weekly failed auction of 24502 was confirmed, we remained above these two levels, both in spot as well as in futures. So that is, these levels will still hold good, and we will continue to add the fresh references, because now we have this 10-day VWAP which will have to be held by the buyers in case they want to continue on the upside. So this is as far as the Nifty futures is concerned. A quick look at what we have done in Bank Nifty. We have the Bank Nifty also references given in the daily report, the open type and the initial balance, the day type. So the daily zones, the weekly zones and the monthly zones. So we knew in Bank Nifty that 55320 was our base and 55900 was the rollover point. So if we open up the Bank Nifty profile chart, And similar to what I said, we have the weekly zones also with the weekly report, a weekly chart also link attached. What we have done in Bank Nifty last week, which got over on Friday, because it's a calendar week which we follow, we formed a neutral extreme weekly profile on the upside, similar to what we did in Nifty Spot. And we had a weekly failed auction in Bank Nifty at 55700. So what we did in Nifty Spot, the same thing happened in Bank Nifty. We made new lows in middle of the week, but we could not sustain, and we went on to take off the highs of the first 5 hours of the week. So what we did was we made new 80H of 56832, forming overlapping to higher value, and it has given a move away. So this week's VWAP would be important. 56172 would be the important reference in uh, futures, and you can see how this is overlapping with that 56161 extension handle we have got in spot. And we if we stay above this, we can go on to complete the 180-year objective of 57143. So this was the target of that failed auction, weekly failed auction, which we have left. So if we open up the Bank Nifty futures chart, and I'll also add up the order flow. So you can see how we opened higher today and we hit that objective of 57143. But above that, we failed to sustain, we failed to get demand. So that is the reason the upside stalled right at one important objective. So not to say that the Bank Nifty is turned bearish, not at all. That is not at all the case, because we have formed the higher value on the daily. But it is always the case that when we are hitting important objectives, auction will take a pause, and it is a good thing also. It starts an imbalance, hits the objective, and then gets back into balance mode, gets this breath back, and then again continues the imbalance. So you can see how the order flow in Bank Nifty was uh, not showing us too much of volumes in the initial balance, but it was a slow probe higher. In Nifty, we did not see any demand in the gap up. In Bank Nifty, what we did was we continued to probe higher. We made higher highs in the B period, where we hit that objective of 57143. But here you can see the buying has been drying down, and this we have a zero on the buy side, and in the C side also, and the D period also. So when you get a range extension with zero on the buy side, you know that the demand is not adding up. So that is the reason you need to be careful about holding long positions. And this is a very classic uh, auction cue that it is going to come back and test the VWAP. And what we did was, this POC was the important reference, 57,000. And when we made the dip below VWAP, this held. And but then again, when we made a probe back above the IBH, we got zeros on the buy side. So this is how the auction order flow will keep you in sync. It will tell you where the support is and where the uh, buyers are missing. So above the initial balance, we want buyers to show up. Only then we can expect the range extension trade. But that was not happening today, both in Nifty as well as Bank Nifty. In Bank Nifty, in fact, in Nifty, we didn't make new highs. In Bank Nifty, we made couple of attempts, but we could not sustain. So ultimately, what happened? We even broke the support of 57,000 into the close. We saw some volumes coming in the close, and the POC also shifted right to that point. So we have a normal day in Bank Nifty and a small initiative buying tail. Considering the gap, we have a slightly longer tail, because the gap up is also a single zone of singles. It's an invisible tail. So this zone would be still be belonging to the buyers. But if we get some IS signal here, then we are looking for a test of this POC. And again, what the order flow shows us, that this POC would set up the rest of the day tomorrow. So we will have to see if we continue to remain in this balance, if we are getting responsive activity at the value area high and the value area low, or we are getting initiative activity, which will tell us that it is ready to move away from this value. So if for an imbalance to start, we need IBs at this value area high, or IS at this value area low. So that is how we'll have to identify, make use of both market profile and order flow to understand whether it is in a balance or whether it is in an imbalance, and at which point in time the balance is turning into an imbalance and the imbalance is turning into a balance. So coming to another important feature of VMR, VTrender charts are these candlestick, because candlestick charts which you have in this menu are very important, and they convey lot of information apart from just the open high close value, because you have the VWAP, you have the POC marked, you also have the volumes in the lower bottommost part, and you also have the cot. So in a nutshell, in this one view, you can understand what is happening when the uh, buyers are in control, when the sellers are in control, and you also have the IBs and the ISS marked on this chart. So it gets easy for us to understand how, when and where we can go long. For example, if I zoom into this Friday's profile, you can see how the open was having more red cot. The sellers were trying to enter the auction, and we were below VWAP also. And in fact, on Friday, we saw one, I think, 700 lot seller who got stuck right at the lows when we hit that 24750 in futures. And you can see the cot is also completely red. But what happened post the policy got over, you can see there is a jump from here. The auction just jumped up above VWAP, and after the jump up above VWAP, it remained above VWAP. So what was it telling us? This candlestick is chart is showing us that the seller's caught, which was red here above VWAP, it will have to come out, and that is what happened. We continued to rise and we got this IB signal, and this IB was further confirmation that we are headed higher, and we went on to probe higher. And finally, when we got this IS at 12 o'clock, that also marked the high of the day. So it very clearly tells you when you need to get into longs and when you need to book out also. So after this, you can see how we never broke above this highs and we remained in the narrow range. And yes, we did get this IBs and IS, but then here this was in a narrow range on smaller volumes. The volumes also, you can see how the volumes were the highest in this bar just after the policy got over. So today's contrast that to today's candles, you can see not much of action is seen, and there is not, you needed to see more of this green caught in the gap up. When you know the trend is up, when we have a gap up and we have had an imbalance the previous day, at the gap up you want the buyers to show control, but that did not happen, and we in fact we came back below VWAP, and all day the volumes were pretty low. They were below average volumes, and you could see that in the speedometer which we have in the order flow charts, that it was way below 50 today. And that you can also see at the end of the day volumes which are clocked only 45,000. Compare it to what you did on Thursday and Friday, it was more than 1 lakh contracts which we traded in Nifty futures. Today again we had only 45,000 at the end of the day contracts. So that again tells you that market is in a narrow range, it is back into balance mode. And coming back to that point, again, after last Tuesday's B-shape profile, we had another narrow range profile on Wednesday. Even on that day, we had very low volumes. I think it was only 50,000 contracts. So today's volume is the lowest for this series. In fact, we had more volumes even when the June series had not even started. On 27th, 28th, 29th of May, we had higher volumes than what we have got today. So it is only telling us that the big players were absent. It was only the locals who were in play, and they have formed value which is higher. So we will have to wait for the big players, and how will they turn up? They will show up IBs and IS, and we will have to make note of that and take in trades as per those signals. I just want to put in a quick candlestick chart of the 24,800 call, and on Friday you can see how this call gave us the IB signal. This is a 3-minute order flow chart, gave us an IB signal right after the policy got over, and this was once we were getting that seaside extension handle. So this IB signal gave us all probable 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 targets on the upside. And you can see how after we got this IS, which was where at 12 o'clock, which we saw even in Nifty futures. So you can see how this option not only gave us a move to the upside, but for players who want to trade contra, even this IS signal gave us all the three targets to the downside. In fact, we discussed this in the VMR also on Friday, that how this marked the end of the upside. And after this, we continue to probe lower. Yes, we did get IBs in later in the afternoon then, which again initiated a buy side trade. And these IBs gave us the upside target again, which got hit today at the open. So you can see how clearly you just need to focus on the IBs and the IS in the candlestick and accordingly take trades and book profits at the targets, trail to cost, and see target 1, target 2, target 3. How many of the targets you can take up. So this is a very powerful tool, and in one window, one screen, you get to see lot of information. So we need to just concentrate on the IBs and the IS. And today you can see how at the open we did not get any signal. So this confirms the open auction out of range. We did not get any signal. We got an IS signal here, and these IS signals you would get in both the call and the put today, because both of them were getting written and the premium kept decaying. The same thing happened even in the bank nifty also. And a classic example I would want to show in the option table of how we can identify when a market is in a balance and which is the strike price which the big players are targeting. So this is the bank nifty option table, and you can see how the gamma is at 57,000, and the 57,000 strike price is where you're getting almost similar volumes. 1,86,000 on the call, 1,62,000 on the put. So both this kind of volumes, which is similar on both strikes, call and put, is telling you that this strike is being written. And why is it being written? Because Bank Nifty is now into balance mode. So as long as you have this big initiative selling tail, and we have formed lower value. So till when the bank nifty will remain in a balance? Till the time this straddle keeps forming lower value. So tomorrow we will need another initiative selling tail at today's value, and then after that we will have to remain below today's low to get and if that is happening, that will also confirm that we are still in a balance mode. At any point of time it stops doing this and we start to trade above the previous day's value, then it is a signal that the market may be coming out of the balance and getting into a new imbalance. So that is how you can make use of these straddle charts also. Not only option sellers use them for taking short side trades and having their stop losses and targets, because for example today if we would have taken a position, in fact we had a trade in this at the VMR, and our stop loss was this VWAP of 1950, untouched VWAP of fourth. So that was our stop loss, and we are looking for more downside. If we get another initiative selling tail tomorrow, then we can have this as our reference. And because this is a monthly strike, we will need to be more patient in this, and we'll have to give it some more time, because weekly settlements are only 5 sessions, so they will tend to decay faster once the move is there. But in the monthly it may take a longer time, but this is what is happening, this is what the structure is saying. So till the time bank nifty continues to remain in a balance, and we continue around that 57,000 mark, we can look at this straddle continuing to decay. So even in this we can have a look at the candlestick charts, and that will also give us the confirmation that how the OI was increasing at the open. So the higher open auction out of range was inviting the straddle sellers to take position in this. And once we broke below VWAP, we continued. It was a slow move lower, but you can see how we have spiked lower into the close, and with a good chance of this opening lower tomorrow also. So that is it for today, guys. I hope it was helpful. Any queries you have, you can please post them here. I'll just take the next couple of minutes to answer any queries, or you can also post us via mail at support at vtrender, or you can DM me straight away on Twitter. My ID is open at Uttam Goel. So we'll be happy to answer any queries that you have. So thank you guys for joining in. Have a great evening and a great week of trade ahead, and looking forward for some good trading opportunities together. Signing off and have a